Shawnda. Shawnda is a poet, visual artist, and writer of short fiction. Originally from Montreal, Shawnda has lived in 7 countries. I would love to hear more about that at some point. She currently resides in Victoria, BC. She loves big noses and laughter. Please welcome Shawnda.
Just gonna make sure you're in frame, okay?
Can we tallify the mic?
I shall
Hi, Zoom
tellify.
people. Yeah, no, that seems
You can
good.
sort of adjust this.
Is that good for everybody there? Okay. Hi, I'm so excited to share something. I agonized over what to choose all week, and I finally decided on this is the shortest long poem that I have, and so it's my most current work. Yeah, and it's called, I'm gonna just take the staple out here. It's called Raggedy Ann. When you show Papa you've won an award, he shushes you. Wait for the commercial. You wait, then, Papa? What good is that, he says, looking at the television. How can you turn that into money? When you are 4 years old, a long blonde brother is born. You spend days outside in the yard. The grass is softer than carpet, good for rolling down the hill. The crab apples are too pink, small and pucker sour. You eat them until you throw up. The strawberry bushes are low, rustle with wind songs, so small and sweet. You must compete with the bumblebees who also eat there. The large ants in the cracks of the paved square are easy to catch. You make brother eat them. There are no trees down at the bottom of the hill by your playhouse. The rooftop patio looking into the ravine, the river, the train bridge above. There are shadows good for hiding in when no one wants to see you anyway. You sit on the rooftop, soaking wet in sunbeam. You try to hold one, to bring it to your heart, but it won't stick, won't warm your insides up. When you are successful, people aren't proud. They want you to be better or to be less. So you stop trying to be great, to make your stain last. You spend more time in the shade of others. Your heart is sick. Raggedy Ann has black eyes. They are round, not enough lashes. She has freckles. You call her ugly. Anne and you have made a bathroom in the playhouse no one knows about. It's a 5-gallon orange bucket. A dirty roll of toilet paper sits on the wooden floor. You don't like when the red-haired neighbor boy knocks at the playhouse door. He wants to watch you on the bucket. Alone, you lay flat on the rooftop patio, cling to Anne, play invisible. Raggedy Ann is not afraid of weasels, not even the ones that chase you in the ravine. She can stare at the sky all day, seeing nothing. Don't look into the sun, you tell her, but she does it anyway. The sun is not your friend, you tell her, but she keeps on staring. Today there are 3 boys in the ravine, lighting small grass fires until one becomes its own sun, furious that it has been brought down this way. The boys run away. The fire runs every way. Fire trucks come. The men are angry. Anne and you hide because you were witness. Anne's not afraid of grown-ups, but you are. You avoid the patch of upturned dirt beside the vegetable garden where Beano is buried. You run past, never look at the stick cross that marks the spot. Anne says Beano didn't love you, only she did. You know she did. She'll never forgive you now, Annie says. But you don't want to be forgiven. You just want to be loved. You pull carrots and eat them still covered in earth. You pick peas. Split their seams, drop one pea at a time, and crush them with your bare feet. You and Anne raise your arms to the new moon, coiled, stiff like one silver hair on the bald patch where the ravine burned. Mama is dead. No one looks out the window to where you play by yourself with Anne. Anne is flying on the wind, arms wide. She kicks her legs. You hold her tight by one arm. The only people to play with are the red-haired neighbor who wants to watch you pee, or the girl with one crossed eye who hides safety pins in the shag carpet for you to step on. Out here you are wild, talking with the wind, pulling tufts of grass, even when it tells you it hurts. You let mosquitoes land and poke you until they are full of blood, then splat them against your skin, smearing the blood you used to own. No one is ever watching you, you and Anne, but you see everything and run at the wind with wild abandon, going nowhere. You and Anne were picking raspberries. Well, not too many made it into the green glass bowl you had taken from the kitchen cupboard. You heard the shot before you felt the pellet that hit you in the back. Boys only like to shoot things when someone is watching. He wasn't a nice kind of boy. His father laughed as you winced. Oh, don't be a sissy, he said. This time the shot hit Anne and she cried out. The pellet stuck into her left eye. She was half blind when you pulled it out. Go away, you started to say, when a shot hit you in the chin. The raspberry bushes quivered. The nettle plants hiding in the grass gaped, hoped the boy would step near them so they could grab his legs and burn him. You ran at him. His father stuck a foot out and tripped you, skidding along your face, getting stained by the long grass. You tumbled and then rolled on purpose, watching the sky change to grass, then back to sky. You don't like knowing bad people. They are harder to forget than the good ones. You picked up Anne, stuck out your tongue to the father and his boy, and ran. Father has made hot milk and honey. You can never sleep at night. Only the milk is skim powder, the honey creamed, neither stir right. He hands you the too hot mug he has microwaved. He is not good at pretending to care about you. You tell him about the red-haired neighbor. His father is a criminal lawyer. You have to toughen up, he says. He is going to the Bahamas again, needs those neighbors to look after you because mother is dead. And everyone should be so lucky to call a criminal lawyer friend. You sleep under your bed now so that you don't float away or sink right through. The monsters are everywhere. You turn on lights, keep your eyes open, sing, but they just laugh at you. Climb on your walls, make circles of color swirl around your head. You want it to be black. You don't want to wake to father slapping you in the face with the cold, wet cloth. You sneak sometimes outside to the backyard, lay on your back where the lawn turns into hill. You wish you were a shooting star is what you wish on shooting stars. Your father knows nothing about you. There were years you would have told him, but not now. Now he is dead, not yet dead to you. You were always afraid of him, his irrational, violent outbursts, and then ice cream sundaes at Dairy Queen. Now you ask it to fade. You commit memory murder. You erase chalkboards of time. The past is not a safe place. Now is not good too. Future was a lie, fool's gold. You see your father, his pride in not giving a shit, drowning alone in his halls of paper friends and television. Television you have in common. You would like to remember believing in something.
Thank you, Shawnda. Holy shit. That was great. That was just a whole other world of a childhood that I really felt immersed in and kind of swallowed by. So thank you. Wow. Okay. Oh, and someone in Zoom says fabulous. So there you go. Diane. Hi, Diane. Oh, and stunning from Michelle. Okay, that was wonderful and just absorbing. Next, I'm going to introduce our featured reader of the evening, Kelsey Andrews. Kelsey Andrews lives in Saanichton BC. She has written about birdwatching when you can't see the birds, snails, and 2 separate poems about turning into rock. The natural world anchors much of her writing while she explores her past and various possible presents. Big Sky Falling is her first book, and I should have said at the very beginning of the evening, she's got copies there for $18, a steal, and her mother Eleanor is the baker. So after the reading, I'm sure you're going to want to buy her books, and you can buy them from Eleanor. Okay, and I always love to have a little quote. So I found this quote right on Kelsey's website, but I loved it so much. The quote is, "I write at the dining room table because that way I can pretend that I'm not writing. Maybe I'm just waiting for dinner." Which I love that, because sometimes you just have to trick yourself, right? Please welcome Kelsey Andrews. See if I got the height right here.
Well, that's pretty good.
Quite.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
You have me now? Okay. Wow, what a great open mic and poetic opener. Thank you. I'm just going to start. So the first poems, the book is sort of about moving from Grand Prairie to in northern Alberta to Vancouver. And so these ones, the first ones are Grand Prairie poems. Field Guide. There is a kind of silence that is a forgetting that you are part of humanity. It's not that you don't move, it's that you don't move like a human. You can read a book, but turn the pages as if your fingers are the wind. No matter what, you must not turn around. The birds will be behind you, and if you turn, then suddenly you are a human. You have to learn to hear the scratchings of the creatures at your back and let them drift forward until you see them in the thicket of your mind. I cannot tell you what song each small bird sings, but I can tell you how bush sounds when no one is listening, how it breathes song and rustlings, a melody with no rhythm and no path. And then this one is a childhood poem. Not all childhood poems are happy poems, as we have learned. Flies. I watch, sitting in the dust-studded air of the school bus, as a boy pulls the wings off flies. He catches them in the cold metal canyon of sill against window. He pulls their wings, then puts the crawling things that are no longer flies, but still alive for a time, in the long blonde hair of the girl in front of him. He smiles a smile of secret boyhood. I have only read of the kind of people who pull wings off flies. I watch and am nauseous. I watch and say nothing, shame expanding in me until it is bigger than anything else. Months later, he tells me his father told him the wings grow back. I tell him, empty with pity, they don't, they never grow back. And then one of the things I miss about northern Alberta is the sky. So this is the farthest thing, and it starts with an epigraph. None of them knew the color of the sky, by Stephen Crane. It's not so much blue as a collection of layers of semi-gloss paint, like onion skin, each layer a slightly different definition of the word blue. As I stand in the driveway, the sky is a bowl brought down over my eyes like the grown-out bowl cut my sister used to have. There is a bite to it, with crooked teeth that leave a funny wriggly mark on my skull, because things that hurt this much are also beautiful, and vice versa. As I walk from the house to the dugout, the sky smells of crows' underfeathers, of jet fuel, of car exhaust, and velvet night, and scintillating morning. The sky reaches down to flatten me against the brittle plastic chair in the backyard, the wheat field beyond held down by blue. It makes me want to live under it always, though I die of exposure, a voice for each animal layer of blue singing in my ears of glory until the night comes and the breathy voices whisper of things that are too big for me. It wraps around my limp wrists like bangles, like bandages for cuts I don't know I have yet. Too much beauty is dangerous. Too much sky, too close, too far around could drive me mad. Another childhood poem. First crush. There was the time in grade 4 when you sat in the back and touched your penis while you raised your other hand. Sleek and smiling as an otter, you hadn't had the talk with your mum yet, didn't know you owned shame the way a dung beetle raises his ball backwards with both feet. You were brave, said your favorite color was purple, though the boys said it was girly, almost pink. Somehow you were safe inside. I loved that in you, wanted it for myself. Your purple and black jacket that you wore all fall. Two kinds of kites. When I was 13 months old, my parents flew me like a kite. I learned to run before I could walk, Dad says, and did both before I learned how not to fall. They held me up with a harness and leash. I learned to soar downwards, to trust in the string. Mom remembers some old ladies with thin mouths, just like a dog, they said. But because of the string, my face didn't hit the ground, and I still have a nose, Dad says. So there's that. I do not remember being a kite, but I remember our Alberta winds were too strong for them. As soon as I got one up and gave it some height, the string would cut my young flesh to the blood and then snap, and the kite would fly high into the sky and disappear. What is a lake? A lake is a mouthful of sky taken by a giant, then spat out on the ground. It is a pasture for grazing canoes, a beaver's life's work, the forest's cold womb, a child's misshapen clay bead on a snarled string of stream. It is the precipice that is a loon's call, that long fall into wildness. And then these two poems are the last two from the Grand Prairie ones, and they kind of go together. So the first is called Grain Shed, After the Game by Lorna Crozier. She is running away again. She is going to live in a grain shed. When she was younger and saw them on the edges of fields from the back seat of the car, she thought they were settlers' cottages and imagined those settlers' one-roomed, unwindowed, tiny gray lives. Now she knows what they are. She still likes to imagine living in one. She doesn't have a sleeping bag or granola bars as she had planned. Still, she is running away. It is raining big, angry drops, and suddenly beside her, the ditch is full of frogs. She kneels to catch one, feels it breathing against her fingers, feet pushing at the meaty part of her palm. I stand in the ditch, white nightdress swirling in the current. This is what we take, I tell her. When she runs for good, years later, frogs the color of shaded leaves will haunt her hands. What we take. 2 moose, mother and juvenile, lolloping in the snow beside the road. Too much leg, but they are faster than the school bus. Gopher, standing totem tall on top of a fence post, sees so much further than any gopher could before the invention of fence posts. The year the small birds all nested in the upper field desperately dragged a wing to distract from eggs laid too close to the path, couldn't look straight on or the dogs might take an interest. Lying back in a hayfield, head down low enough that the grass holds up the sky. Nightgown and snowmobile boots, middle of the night and northern lights, breath of God on a cold black window. And then I moved and had to learn how to love another place than there. But the first two poems are before I learned that, so they're homesick poems. Drought year. Rain is different here, where mountains and upright buildings box me in. In Vancouver, rain is an expected nuisance, not like at home. On the prairies where roads are straight and go forever, rain is relief. Here, it rains on puddled concrete, smells like wet dog and exhaust, makes me sigh and hunch cold shoulders, tug my hood. When it rains on cracked black earth, the smell of ozone from lightning makes me stand exulting, tear off my coat. I walk in city rain, in this concrete and stone bowl filled with thin soup of fog and stranger's sweat, and think how I would feel if this rain were to fall on our sad and empty dugout, guarded by dusty, disillusioned geese. I would laugh to watch it, imagine the trees swelling with abundance, feel my skin slackening with moisture, my lips uncracking. Everything suddenly, sweetly, achingly green. Green that shocks the eyes and sets the feet to dreaming of gumbo that can eat a pickup to its rusty axles and still be hungry for your rubber boots. On this coast, there is lush, green everywhere, growing up brick walls and across parking lots. More kinds of green than all the colors back home. More richness, more dank wonder here, and fewer miracles. Redwing. She has forgotten the sound of the blackbird's cry. She still has the look of him when he sits at the crown of a naked aspen like oil paint, the red so red that it's a name on a tiny tube next to scarlet and carnelian in the artist's supply shop, with a tiny bit of blue, perhaps from shadowed snow in the underlayer to make it shine. She still owns the feel of half-frozen mud, hard and brittle and sticky and slick under the balls of her feet, the smell of a lake soon to be frozen to the bottom. But she has lost the sound of the blackbird's cry. There are degrees of loneliness. Wait. Oh, I found it. It's all good. So I swear I have happy poems in here, but and even happy coast poems, but going with the sort of narrative that I've got, now I have sad poems. Medusa. Depressed people have this stare that scares the normals. Eyes fixed, face immobile. I know Medusa. She dogs my steps, turning bits of me to stone. I wake in the morning and feel my ribs contract. My hot, meaty heart is caged in a cave of hollow bone. On the bus, I try to turn my head and I'm stuck fast. My eyes turn to agates, and everything I see is gray and rounded by endless years. This is why gargoyles shriek and moan. Limestone lips cannot smile. Supplicant. Please make it hurt less. Lips split and dry from too much biting. I cannot hold this much broken in my mouth. Please break me or strengthen me or somehow make me able to accept what you give. Secrets roil in my lungs and breathing is difficult. Secrets I am so tired of keeping from myself. Please give me less to hold, to make do. And then Some of these poems are sort of talking to myself. So there's the voice of me saying, I'm so depressed and it's terrible, and then me trying to say it's going to be okay. So this is an it's going to be okay poem, but I was fairly depressed at the time. So, Bezoar. The silence inside the seed, inside the red fruit that is your heart. The part that hurts when you hold your breath because you are tired of all that breathing. The part they cannot kill with their pills and hospitals, and you cannot kill with your illness and lies, and death cannot kill when you try it on like a shirt you've been given for Christmas. When hope is lost and light, and when reason is gone, when thought and blood have run out, when the meat has been eaten by scavengers and the strings made from the sinews have unraveled, when the spoils have been divided and you are nothing left to fight over. It is the tiny silence in the middle that need not be defended because it cannot be assailed. And then sometimes you feel a little bit better because that happens too. So here's a better poem. She hadn't felt this way in a long time. The world had been gray, the future long and plodding. Some days getting out of bed was a major excursion, requiring forethought, planning, periodic rest stops between the bedroom and the easy chair in front of the TV. Mornings she had to rest for an hour, recover from the dreams, before scaling the bedroom floor. Scaling is what it was. Everything. The path between the front door and the newspapers collecting like a family of storks in the box, her morning cereal, which turned slowly into morning tea. The very hours themselves were on an increasingly steep incline. And then one day, things were flat again. Chocolate tasted like chocolate instead of oatmeal. Instead of sitting in her chair and thinking, if I were a good person, I'd mop or something, and watching the dust bunnies roll by, she'd get up and go for a walk. Almost before she had time to hate herself for not doing the dishes, they were clean. One day she was sitting in her chair and she got caught, like a fish on a line, by the lipstick plant on the table with the lamp, unable to look away from those flowers, thinking, they are so pink, so pink. She was grateful for silly things, colors and chocolate, but also the crow outside the window that had a caw like a squeaky toy, the smell of laundry hanging to dry on her shower rod, orange peels. She found herself thinking, I could, instead of I should. It might, instead of it'll never. Maybe, instead of no. And then to prove that I do have some happy poems that are about the coast, what is the sea? The sea is the beat of a huge heart you are standing in, a tumbler for driftwood, making logs into semi-precious stones, sweat streaming off mountains, turning into this largesse. To someone from farm country, the closest thing to prairie, a horizon made of the curve of the earth, nothing to stop the eye from traveling. And then, since it's just past Valentine's Day, I thought I'd do some love poems, which, you know, depressed, so they're not all happy. Senses. Skin tastes like salt. Sweat is ocean shadow on your shoulder, under your chin. You have a sheen when you've been running, makes me think of sea creatures. See me. My hand is a remora, sliding along beside. Hair smells like shampoo, like your shampoo and the green bottle that tastes of dry leaves, the strands grate between my teeth. See me. My fingers are mice, tunneling under grass against your scalp. Mouth sounds like a cave. The wind blows against hidden openings, a breath that moans wet with promise, like a song the earth sings. See me. My fingers are cavers. They enter silently into darkness. Teeth feel like a cliff to be climbed on the way in. Sharpness shows where the footholds are. See me. My fingers are mountain goats. They brush their velvet noses against the castellated edge. Your hands move like birds. wings opening and closing, settling then taking off, feather light against my skin. See me, my hands are older, wiser birds. They guide yours gently to the nest between my thighs. First love and learning. The sound of lapping water could tame me. The kiss at the dock while I sleep all night in my sleeping bag could turn me soft and cool. Instead, I am fire. I fall in love with no consideration for the lay of the land, blacken the stones in my path, leave fireweed angry and purple. I could learn from creeks and riverbeds to curve around hills, travel the path of loosest earth. Instead, I am ice, water too afraid to flow. I stay where I should not all winter. I freeze the tongues that reach for me. Grottos and valleys could show me how to be gentle, persistent, to erode my rock faces rather than blasting them. Instead, I am a road crew, making a way out where there is none. My will breaks what it should avoid. I do not even hear the words no or slow. Did I do that in the right order? Good question. Sorry, I read it out of order, but that's okay. It'll still work. Bettina. The teapot is red with an attached metal lid because he worries about loose ones falling off and breaking. Inside is a round room, wallpapered in tiny layers of rooibos and Earl Grey, a thin wash of dark oil each time we brew a pot. He bought it when I started sleeping over. If we break up, I will shatter this pot on the kitchen floor so that the small round room will only ever echo with his voice and mine. And then, because poetry is sometimes prophetic, picking blackberries on the day my lover left me. The wasps love blackberries too, and they are out today. Almost the end of blackberries and wasps. Winter sneaking up on us. So sweet, the ones just ripe. Not only the thorns leave marks, red lines and little holes, but the berries purple the fingers. Nothing you've had, even for a short time, leaves without a trace. So hard, the ones left alone too long. And this one isn't actually about love, but I thought it fit. And I will need no one. I will live in the shadows and make friends with the dark, and I will need no one. I will talk to the river and listen to the trees, and I will need no one. I will eat red earth and drink cold rain, and I will need no one. The mushrooms will kiss me goodbye, and the wind will bury me in pine needles, and I will need no one. But I'm considering a past lover. Kisses live on in the skin, a rainbow sheen slicked all over, like the sticky thin layer of oil on a wet parking lot, making everything glint hard in the streetlight. A kiss lives on as a beacon along the curve of the shoulder, the underside of the earlobe, the tip of the thumb. It cries out, I know what it is to be touched, and we cannot turn it off or down or forget. Kisses like tears leave a trail to follow, a curving line like a snail track. You can trace it later with your fingers, even after years. If applied carefully, kisses close around you, a second skin as thin as a cell, a tiny armor, for no matter what happens later, you will always remember, I was loved once, and that softens and hardens you and gives you hunger like a gift. Thank you.
Before Kelsey goes, did anyone have questions? We usually open up if there's any questions for the poet. Please feel free to wave a hand and
I was thinking about the order of your poems. You said it's sort of geographical, like how did you come up with that?
Well, the book itself, am I still? Okay, the book itself is sort of 20 years worth of poems because it's a first book. And I found when I put them together, there were a few sort of narrative lines. There was moving, and there was depression, and then it was only when I put it together that I realized there was a little love in there, which was nice. So it was when I put it together that I found that there were narratives.
And it naturally fell into 3 sections?
That was the editor, who was amazing. And she sort of said it should be 3 sections and helped with placement. Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
any other questions?
Are you working on another one?
I am, yes, because it takes years for a book to come to fruition. I'm sort of in the middle of a new one, yeah. It's about my dad, so I have to wait and talk to family members before. Yeah, that should be exciting.
Interesting.
My mom's giggling at the back. Yeah.
They're okay so far. They're really good.
What else? All right, well, that was lovely. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Kelsey.